Life of Rizal in abroad. Rizal in Europe 1882-1887. Rizal in Europe, Barcelona and Madrid 1882-1887. On May 3, 1882, Rizal left the Philippines for Spain. In his first trip abroad, Rizal was very excited to learn new things. He was only 20 years old and as a young man, he was very observant and eager to interact with foreign nationals. He made sketches of his fellow passengers and of the things that he saw during his travel. He rode the cruise Salvadora from Manila until it reached Singapore on May 8, 1882. On the 11th of May, he rode the cruise the Gimna that will take him to Europe. On June 11, 1882, the Gimna reached Naples in Italy. He toured the city and after 3 days he traveled to Barcelona using train. Rizal reached Barcelona on June 16, 1882. He arrived during the summer vacation, so he was able to meet up with former classmates in Ateneo. This classmate organized a welcome party for Rizal at a coffee house in Plaza de Catalunya. They toured Rizal around the city and brought him to the famous historical sites in Barcelona. In this city, Rizal found time to write an essay entitled El Amor Patricio, Love of Country. This issue was published in August 20, 1882 in Diaryong Tagalog where he used the pen name Laong Laan. After the summer vacation, Rizal decided to move to Madrid where they enrolled medicine and philosophy and letters of the Universidad Central de Madrid, presently the Universidad Complutense de Madrid on November 3, 1882. Rizal in Europe, Barcelona and Madrid, 1882-1887. Rizal in Europe, Barcelona and Madrid, 1882-1887. He also took lessons in painting and sculpture at the Academia de San Fernando and classes in French, English, and German at the Madrid Ateneo. Not content with this activity, he still managed to enroll in fencing class at the School of Science and Carbonell. Rizal was awarded with the degree and title of Licentiate in Medicine for passing the medical examinations in June 1884. With his title, Rizal was able to practice medicine. He continued enrolling in courses that would have led to a doctorate in medicine, but the degree was not given to him because he failed to pay the fee required to defend his thesis. Nakapagtatag ng sariling aklatan kung saan kabilang ang Uncle Tom's Cabin in Harriet Beecher Stowe at The Wandering Joe ni Eugene Sue, mga akdang nagtanim sa kanyang isipan ng pagkaawa sa mga tauhan dahil sa kanilang kaapihan. Rizal in Europe, Barcelona and Madrid, 1882-1887. Rizal also took examinations in Greek, Latin, and World History. He won the first prize in Greek and a grade of excellence in history. He also obtained the degree Licenciado in Filosofía y Letras, Licentiate in Philosophy and Letters, from the Universidad Central de Madrid on June 19, 1885 with a rating of sobresaliente. Rizal in Europe, Barcelona and Madrid, 1882-1887. Rizal made time for meeting fellow Filipinos in Madrid, known as Ilustrado. These Filipino enlightened ones formed the Circulo Hispano-Filipino, which held informal programs with activities like poetry and debates. As a prolific writer and poet, Rizal was asked to write a poem. As a result, he wrote me paid verses. They asked me for verses. In one of the Filipino reunions of the house of Pedro Paterno in Madrid on January 2, 1884, Rizal proposed the writing of a novel about the Philippine society. The group approved the project, but this plan did not materialize. His fellow Filipinos who agreed to help him did not write anything to. He drafted the novel alone. It was in Madrid that he was able to write the first half of his novel, Noli Tangere. While in Madrid, Rizal was exposed to liberal ideas through the Masons that he met. He was impressed with the Masons' view about knowledge and reasoning and how they value brotherhood. He joined the Masonry and became a Master Mason at the Lodge Solidaridad on November 15, 1890. The toast for Luna and Hidalgo Brandes' speech on June 25, 1884. The Filipinos in Madrid had a gathering to celebrate Juan Luna's success because his paintings Polarium gained gold medal and Felix Resurrection Hidalgo's Christians Virgins exposed to populace received a silver medal on a prestigious painting competition in Madrid. And Jose Rizal, who was not able to take his meal for the whole day, was restricted to deliver an impromptu speech that would be a salute for the two Filipino painters.
The concept of brindis, or the brindis speech of Dr. Rizal. So brindis means to celebrate or to toast. So last June 25, 1884, in banquet at Restaurant Ingles in Madrid, Jose Rizal delivered a toast together with his speech The Brindis to honor the victories of Juan Luna and Felix Hidalgo in the field of arts. Juan Luna won the first prize and the gold medal for his work Spoliarium or Spolarium. He spent 8 months completing the painting which depicts the dying gladiators. Jose Rizal noted when he was giving his speech that the spoliarium represented or symbolized the significance and essence of the Filipinos' social, moral, and political life that includes humanity and severe ordeals. He also indicated the purpose of Juan Luna's Polarium, which is painted to awaken Filipinos from ignorance, blindness, mental darkness, and oppression. The painting's Polarium shows how the Filipinos were treated before when they were colonized by Spaniards. It shows that they were forced to entertain the Roman oppressors and the Spaniards with their lives and sacrifice themselves for the Romans and Spaniards' honor. Felix Hidalgo was acknowledged as one of the great Filipino painters of the late 19th century and is significant in Philippine history for having been acquaintance and inspiration for members of the Philippine Reform movement. The painting Las Virginis Cristianas Expuestas al Populacho depicting the persecution of Christians in ancient Rome. This painting won the second prize and a silver medal in Madrid Exposition of Fine Arts. Hidalgo's winning the silver medal for the painting was a landmark achievement that proved that the ability of Filipinos to match the work of Spaniards and laid the claim that Filipinos' participation in European culture. Rizal toasting to the two painters to have a good health, inciting their witness evidence that Filipino and Spaniards were equals. He also acknowledged the brotherhood of both countries in some way, saying that Spain as a mother also teaches her language to Filipinos, but he sneered bitterly at the midgets who secured their position, presumably referring to the elite who did everything they could be to keep Filipinos from learning to defend themselves instead of dwelling in fear. In addition, we can actually praise Spain for anything they did good for us but not forget the horrors of them all, the sadness of Filipino people owing to injustices at the time, and the oppressions perpetrated by abusive friars. It is not a bad notion to express gratitude to Spain for their assistance, but that should be the end of it. Then, it is true, Luna and Hidalgo are both Spanish and Philippine legends. They were born in the Philippines, but they could have been born in Spain. As Rizal has said, genius knows no borders. Genius blooms everywhere. Genius is like light, air, and everyone's inheritance. Genius is cosmopolitan like space, life, and God. Nevertheless, the speech was about recognizing and thanking the two of them for giving the Filipinos pride and glory. But most importantly, he applauds that efforts of young people who can make a difference and add to the Philippines' greatness. He wanted people to understand the glory isn't just dependent on a country. He hugely emphasized how the youth and their activities have made a significant impact in the Philippines' splendor. In the speech he made, there are values and lessons he teach us that can be applied in a real world up until now, such as mentioning geniuses can be born and made anytime and anywhere. No one has the right to judge or put down a person because anyone can be great. He also said that Spain and Philippines are equal, no greater nor slaves. Dr. Jose Rizal is great because he discussed bravely what the Spaniards are afraid of, education of the Filipinos, but what he focused more is to inspire Filipinos and prove how worthy a nation can be. Rizal in Paris and Germany. Rizal, who was a 24 years old and a full-fledged surgeon, decided to go to Paris to pursue his study and gain appropriate expertise in ophthalmology. On his way to Paris, he first stopped at Barcelona to visit a friend named Massimo Viola. He is a medical student from a wealthy family of San Miguel, Bulacan. Rizal and Viola planned to tour Europe together after Viola finished his medical studies. Rizal spent about 4 months in Paris. While in Paris, he kept busy writing his novel. Dr. Louis D. Weckert, a renowned ophthalmologist, hired him as a clinical assistant. After working as an assistant in Dr. Weckert's clinic, Rizal left Paris and moved to Heidelberg, a German city, where he arrived on February 7, 1886. He had to go to Germany to further his knowledge. While studying in Germany, Rizal met Pastor Karl Ulmer, who became his friend and welcomed him into his home. It was here where Rizal finished one of his novels, the Noli Tangere. Before leaving the beautiful city, he wrote an ode, a lyric poem expressive of exalted emotion entitled A las Flores de Heidelberg, or in English, it means To the Flowers of Heidelberg. He was fascinated by the flowers in the spring in Heidelberg and wrote this poem, feeling a deep longing for his family and his country. The pilgrim nurses for his native sod.
What is Noli Me Tangere? Noli Me Tangere. Noli Me Tangere was Rizal's first novel which tackled the society and government in the Philippines during the Spanish colonization. He used cancer as the metaphor of the Philippine society since, like cancer, the sickness of our society was untouched, growing to be chronic malady and incurable. So malady is like a disease. In his novel, he discussed how the friars deceived the Filipinos and made them blindly believe in the practices of religion. The title of the novel, Noli Me Tangere, was a Latin word which means touch me not. This was taken from the Gospel of Saint John from the New Testament. Original, Noli was written in Spanish, not Tagalog. Earliest English translation of Noli Me Tangere in the American period is entitled Social Cancer.
So, let's see what is the cover of the novel represents. The cross is for sufferings, Pomelo blossoms and laurel leaves is honor and fidelity. The silhouette of a Filipina is Maria Clara. Burning torch is rage and passion. Sunflowers is for enlightenment. Bamboo stalks is for resilience. Man with hairy feet is priest using religion in a dirty way. Chain, slavery, whips, cruelties. Helmet of the guardian civil is arrogance of those in authority. Now the cover of Noli Me Tangere is showing a lots of portrayals of what was happening in the Philippines during this time.
Why did Jose Rizal wrote the novel Noli Me Tangere? Rizal was studying for medicine. While in Germany, Rizal wrote the second half of Noli Me Tangere from time to time starting February 21, 1887. After he read the novel Uncle Tom's Cabin by Harriet Beecher Stowe, he had an inspiration to write his own novel with the same topic to expose Spanish colonial abuse in print. Noli Me Tangere was the novel that was shake off the foundations of Spanish power in the Philippines by Austin Coates, who is one of the biographers of Dr. Jose Rizal. Rizal's book persistently unmasked contemporary Spaniards in the Philippines of every kind. He exposes corruption and brutality of the civil guards which drive good men to crime and banditry. He also exposed the ignorance, corruption, and brutality of the Filipino civil guards, the passion of gambling unchecked by the thought of duty and responsibility, ang pagiging sugalero ng mga Pilipino. Rizal nevertheless balances the national portrait by highlighting the virtues and good qualities of his unspoiled countrymen, the modesty and devotion of the Filipina, the unstinting hospitality of the Filipino family, the devotion of parents to their children and children to their parents, the deep sense of gratitude, and the solid common sense of the untutored peasant. Rizal's first homecoming after 5 years in Europe. Rizal went home to Calamba on August 8, 1887. He spent time with the members of his family who were delighted to see him again. He also kept himself busy by opening a medical clinic and curing the sick. He came to be known as Dr. Uliman as he was mistaken for a German. His vacation, however, was cut short because he was targeted by the friars who were portrayed negatively in his novel Noli Me Tangere. He was called to Malacanang by Governor-General Emilio Terrero due to the controversy raised by Noli Me Tangere. The first copies had arrived in Manila. Lieutenant Jose Tavil de Andrade was assigned to watch over Rizal. After a review of the Noli Me Tangere, it was found out that the book was heretic, impious, unpatriotic, subversive, and injurious to the government of Spain in the Philippines. It was recommended that the importation, reproduction, and distribution of the book should be prohibited. While Rizal was staying in Calamba, Governor-General Emilio Terrero ordered an investigation of the friar land holdings. The colonial government suspected that the Calamba estate might be evading the full payment of taxes, and the Public Treasury Department decided to check on its returns by asking how much they were paying to the administrators of the estate. Rizal was involved in this investigation by helping to draft an informative report on the agrarian situation in Calamba. The tenants reported that they were losing money to the advantage of Dominican administrators. The tenants' report was followed by a petition to the government questioning the legitimacy of the land holdings of the Dominicans, or at least parts of it. While still in Calamba, Rizal was seen as a troublemaker and a rabble-rouser. His family received threats on his life. Governor-General Terrara requested Jose Rizal to leave the country. Just before leaving Calamba, he composed a poem entitled Hymno al Trabajo, or Hymn to Labor, which commemorated the elevation of Lipa, Batangas, into the status of villa under the Becerra Law of 1888. He left the country for the second time on February 16, 1888. Rizal's second trip to Europe. In his second trip, Rizal became more active in the propaganda movement with fellow ilustrados like Marcelo H. del Pilar, Graciano Lopez Jana, Antonio Luna, Mariano Ponce, and Trinidad Pardo de Tavera. The propaganda movement campaigned for reforms such as for the Philippines to made a province of Spain so that native Filipinos would have equal rights accorded to Spaniards, representation of the Philippines in the Spanish courts, and last, secularization of parishes. Rizal became preoccupied with writing articles and essays which were published in the propaganda movement's newspaper, La Solidaridad. Among his intellectual works in Europe in his annotation of Antonio Morga's Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas in 1890, in which Rizal showed that event before the coming of the Spaniards, the Filipinos already had a developed culture. He also wrote an essay entitled Sobre la Indolencia de los Filipinos, on the indolence of the Filipinos, published in 1890, in which he attributed the Filipinos' indolence to different factors such as climate and social disorders. Another essay he wrote strongly called for reforms. It was called Filipinas dentro de 100 años, The Philippines a century hence, published by parts from 1889 to 1890.